Welcome to Strong Brook Radio, leveling up with today's thought leaders. What you're about to hear are powerful insights, entertaining stories, and life-changing principles from some of the most innovative minds in the world today. This is Strong Brook Radio. All right, well, welcome everybody. This is Stephen Michael Miller with Strong Brook Radio. So glad to have you back here listening in. If this is your first time, I just want to say welcome, a very warm welcome. If this is your 10th time, 20th time, or if you've been with us from the very beginning, definitely want to say welcome to you as well, and so glad to have you here. I'll tell you, as always, I'm so excited to have our next individual here on Strong Brook Radio, somebody that I'm truly excited to introduce to everybody here as well. But if you're here, you're listening in because you want to find out information that can help you take your life to the next level. You're here because you're hoping to hear insights and information from individuals that have figured some things out, and they're here to share it with us. So I'm excited to bring this next person on. This is a person by the name of Andrea Feinberg, and she is the president of Coaching Insight LLC. Now, Andrea nudges ambitious, independence-driven women, business owners from the daily grind towards the big rewards of ownership. To basically a better run enterprise, more money, a happier life, and time to enjoy it all. She's more than 25 years experience, or her more than 25 years experience in helping clients articulate, achieve, and exceed their goals. Now, she's a graduate of New York University, Stern School of Business in Marketing, and Coach University's 3-year advanced training program, and a founding member of Coachville, the world's largest coach training body. She's achieved designations of Certified Strategic Business Leadership Coach, Certified Facilitator Coach, Certified Professional Behavioral Analyst, and Certified Emotional Intelligence Mentor through EQ Mentor NC. She's published or contributed to 5 books, the most recent of which is Productivity, published by Doodle in November of 2015. And so I'll tell you, there's so many other amazing things that she's done here. Among some, she's included among the 50 top influential women in Long Island Business News, one of the top 5 coaching blogs, the School of Coaching Mastery. She's included in the 100 Women in E-Commerce, Women in E-Commerce Association, and the top 5 productivity gurus from TimeDoctor.com. She's helped launch chapters in Women's Prosperity Network, 5 chapters in the Women's Prosperity Network, and an 800-member International Association for Women's Business and Professional Growth. She's done so many things, and I'll tell you what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and bring her on right now. Andrea, are you there?
I am here.
Andrea, thank you so much. Man, you have accomplished an unbelievable amount of things in your life as a coach, trainer, helping women in business. I mean, it sounds like you've just done some tremendous things. And so I want to, first of all, express my gratitude for you taking some time to be with us here on Strong Brook Radio. Time is one of the most precious resources that we have. And so I don't ever let a time go by where I want to express my gratitude for you taking your time to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Stephen. It's my pleasure to chat with you and your audience today.
Thank you so much. Now, before we jump into the meat and potatoes here, I like to just get personal, get real, and I'd love it if you could talk to me maybe about one of your most embarrassing moments in business coaching.
It may be hard to come up with one.
I put you on the spot there. I know.
Yeah, I have a philosophy, Stephen, that there's no failure in life, so that when I make mistakes or if something has happened unexpectedly that could embarrass me, I don't wish to brag, but I'm pretty quick to find a way to turn it into an opportunity.
Wow.
While we're chatting, I'm going to continue to think about this and try to find a way where I went out with my underwear showing.
There you go. There you go.
And it has happened once or twice with email. A couple of times, in fact, that's exactly what's happened. A couple of times I've sent out mass marketing messages that I thought were complete and beautifully depicted, and in fact turned out to have all kinds of the provider's editorial marks and comments and such on them. And this happened to me once a couple of years ago, and fortunately I was at the computer, so I could see that the way that I like to present myself as a professional really didn't come across in this message at all. And because I was at my computer, I was able within minutes to send out another message that basically said in the subject line, "Did I just go out with my underwear showing?" And so I apologized and said, things like this happen. You've got to bounce back quickly. And that's exactly what I was able to do. So that does convey my general attitude. You've got to be able to be quickly responsive to the unexpected problems that do show up and find some way to turn it either into humor, which people find very endearing, or another way to reinforce the value you wanted to get out the first time around.
Andrea, I love that idea and concept. I mean, I think that's something that if we can all learn to do that a little bit more, we tend to beat ourselves up when we hit when we do certain things that we're embarrassed about. But I love that attitude that you're moving forward with, which is, there's really no reason to be embarrassed. We all make mistakes. If we can lightheartedly, poke fun at ourselves a little bit, or turn it into a humorous moment, it really can work towards our advantage. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. I think, in fact, that in the 21st century way of interacting with people via computer or tablet or internet, with far fewer face-to-face interactions, being able to convey that there is actually a human being back here is a really important message to reinforce, because so often now we don't do business with people that we're going to sit down with and shake their hand or share a cup of coffee. It may never happen. And so sometimes a little bit of a reminder that, there really is a person back here is a very useful tool.
That's great. Now, with all the business owner clients that you've worked with over the years, what consistencies have you found? I imagine that you have, worked with a variety of people from all walks of life and everything. But are there some specific consistencies that you see as you work with all these different entrepreneurs and business owners?
I was thinking about that earlier, and yes, I'm happy to say that virtually every business owner I've worked with is an honorable, ethical person who really is concerned about delivering a product or service of quality that will have real value, for whether it's their clients or their vendors or their strategic partners. So that's on the good side, and that's a delightful thing to discover. The negative is that there's a lot of confusion over how to use one's time as a business owner. And very often what gets attention is the urgencies rather than what's truly important. This is the old philosophy of the squeaky wheel always getting the attention. And that creates tremendous problem for people who really do have big picture priorities that they want to achieve, yet don't know how to find the time to get to them. So that's something I find virtually every day with everyone I work with. Another is that there's a real confusion over how to use marketing tools effectively and appropriately, given the audience you want to reach and conveying the benefit you want to let them know you're in a position to offer. And I think that has really arisen in the last 10 years with the easy and cheap or even free availability of so many online, very powerful marketing tools that nobody knows how to use very well, except, my 12-year-old kid told me to be on Twitter. So
Right.
that's, that's another consistency. And I think, those things lead to a real problem, which is the last consistency I'll share with you, and that virtually every business owner I've ever worked with wishes that they could have more time to spend with their families.
Yeah.
And that's, these are the things I see across the board, as you said, in so many different industries or subject matter areas of expertise.
I appreciate that. Wow. So one quick, just follow-up question on that. We speak of urgencies rather than, kind of focusing on your long-term vision. And when you've got so much on the table and so much writing on the table, obviously fires are going to come up in your business that you have to put out. How do you balance that? Can you give us just maybe one or two tips that we can use to balance that idea of heading up or going after all those things that are urgent, that come up that jump up in our face, as opposed to being able to really spend some time on the long-term goal and vision?
Yeah, well, the late, great Dr. Stephen Covey was a master at talking about how to focus on what's important versus focus on what's urgent. And I would highly recommend anyone to his masterwork, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to go into this in detail. But here's one sentence I'll say that needs to make it clear, and that is, while everything needs to get done, it doesn't all need to get done by you. And this is an area that
Smart.
a lot of small business owners have a hard time recognizing, whether it's they're afraid to ask for help, either because they don't want to appear less than infallible, or they don't know who they can trust, or they don't want to undermine what they see as their source of authority, or they don't know how to hire and train and delegate properly so that they can hand over a task and then walk away and move on to what really would use their brain in the way it best needs to be used.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Stephen Covey is definitely a man who has had a lot of experience and great to learn from. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Thank you.
Now, what has surprised you most as a coach?
Well, I've been a coach, and I'm literally a professionally trained coach by the founder of this profession, Thomas Leonard, for 15 years. And I think I've been kind of shocked at how quickly the concept and the value of this profession kind of swept through the entire planet. For the first year or two, when I would talk about being a coach, people would ask me, what sport?
Right.
I haven't gotten that question in a very long time. So I am surprised with how easily this profession has transmitted its value through so many segments of our society. Yet at the same time, I'm also very surprised at how few people ever ask me for my credentials. How do they know I'm a coach versus a mentor or a consultant or a trainer? And very few people have ever asked me what makes me a coach.
Yeah.
How do they know I'm good at what I do? So that's surprising as well.
Okay. Yeah, that makes. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people just go ahead? I mean, are we just a trusting people? I tend to think otherwise. I think usually we're very skeptical in nature. What is it maybe about this world of coaching and mentoring and training that it maybe is a little different?
Well, I don't know if this is an advantage or a disadvantage, but the word coach is somehow a very comfortable word, and we all have a sense of what that means. It's someone who's going to put their arm around you and support you through some kind of endeavor, Many of us, were in school and had coaches primarily in some kind of athletic activity. So we seem to instinctively know what that role is and accept that from someone who says they're a coach without knowing that there truly is a specific body of knowledge. There are specific ways of relating to clients that sets coaching apart from consulting. And yet I think coaching is kind of lumped in with all of these educational forms of professional engagement, whether, as you said, it's training or mentoring or consulting. People just seem to think that somehow they'll be better as a result of engaging one of those kinds of professionals without really knowing how to distinguish one from another.
Yeah, wow, appreciate that. So, I want to get into this a little bit, not what we were just talking about, but I want to get into this concept and idea of business ownership. This is what you do. This is where you spend most of your time is with the small business owner, people that are looking to just, get off the floor a little bit with their idea. And what is it about business ownership that stumps so many people? I mean, we learn that very small percentage of people that get out there and jump into this idea called entrepreneurship really make it. So what do you think is one of the main things that really, what is it about that stumps so many people?
Well, I think virtually everyone who's ever become a business owner, unless you're a 14-year-old, was an employee first. And we learn behaviors as employees to lead us to some level of success in that employed situation. And when we shift over to business ownership, we take a lot of those behaviors or assumptions with us, and that's a big problem because what got you there is not going to get you here.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of that. And then I'll start this with a great story. One of my mentors once told me that when she started out as an employee, she had a job basically staring at the monitor, looking for mistakes in many thousands of lines of code. And she would just be looking at a monitor, intently reading and concentrating, looking for where there was a problem. And very often somebody would walk by her desk or walk into her cubicle, not really understanding the nature of her job, and say, wow, daydreaming again? Not realizing what she was doing. And I think this is a problem for many business owners. They don't think they have permission to just sit still. And whereas my colleague who shared this story was actually, looking and analyzing at a screen, too many business owners have taken with them from their employed days the belief that the only way to be productive is to appear to be busy. And we convey being busy with some kind of physical activity. Right? So we're talking on the phone, we're writing, we're computing, we're scrolling, we're walking back and forth. Even when we're just muttering to ourselves, it conveys to others that there's something going on that's advancing some kind of a project or initiative. And we used to do that kind of thing just in case we were sitting in a cubicle or at a desk when we were employed because we wanted to look busy in case someone important walked by. Well, now, as a business owner, we are the most important people, but we still don't feel that we have permission to sit still and think, to strategize, to envision, to nurture ideas, to be creative. And we feel that we have to explain to other people, I'm really working here. And instead, a business owner will spend a lot of time, especially if they're in a place with other employees, actively engaged in the physical activity of the business. And a problem that happens there, well, there are multiple problems with that. If you have staff to assist you with the physical activities of the business, and there are many of them. When you engage in those activities, you're undermining your team's ability to develop and become stronger contributors to the business. You're missing the opportunity to do what only you can do, which is, as I said, create the business for tomorrow. And very often when you're engaged in physical activities, whether it's responding to emails or making phone calls or putting away inventory or paying the bills, you're responding to business that has already taken place and been acquired and now simply has to be executed or followed up or filed away. And you're doing that at the expense of creating all of tomorrow's opportunities. And this is a real problem for business owners who really don't know how to distinguish how best to spend their time, which has a lot less to do with physical things and a lot more to do with mental or creative things. So there's my lecture for the morning.
Andrea, I love it. Actually, I just read an article. This was probably 2 or 3 days ago. And in this article, they talked about a study that they had done, where they took 3 different focus groups. And one of the focus groups they sent out to practice 3 free throws. They tested them all first one time through. They had this first practice group or go out and do free throws for a certain space of time. They had a second group do nothing. And then they had a third group just visualize themselves doing free throws. And every time as they were visualizing, if they ever visualized themselves missing, they would have them redo it until they made it in their visualization. And here's the interesting thing, and I love what you're saying here. The idea that we have to think appropriately and spend time in that vision state to accomplish new and better things rather than just being reactionary. Or if I can go back to what we even said before, this is the difference between just covering those urgencies, right? The things that are already taking place, and actually spending time with that long-term vision. And so this study was fascinating to me because at the end, the individuals that actually practiced the free throws for this given amount of time, and I can't remember the space of time, but the individuals that actually practiced it in reality, that physically dribbled the ball and shot it, they saw a 24% improvement, which was phenomenal. It was great. The people that didn't practice at all saw no improvement, of course, but the people that practiced mentally only did it in their minds, saw, when they actually were tested again physically, saw a 23% improvement. So only 1% behind the people that actually physically did it. And that's, as I was reading that study, I thought, man, this is so wonderful. And of course, this is what we've been learning about, what you've been talking about, which is the importance of not just doing things to make it look like you're busy, but really spending time in that vision, spending time in growing and in doing things that are going to get you to where you want to go. Because the reality is we're not there yet. And if we're doing all these activities right now that aren't getting us there yet, then we've got to imagine new things. We've got to come up with something different.
Well, that's an excellent point. And you hear this so often with athletes who are interviewed after they've won something momentous, how much time they spend working with their coaches, visualizing success, visualizing not only the actual act of succeeding or overcoming your opponent, but how will it feel? Yes. How will I feel at the end? What will have happened to me? What emotional state will I be in? And that adds so much of a visceral component to what could otherwise just be, a scholastic type of exercise. So, this is such a key part of business ownership that too many people who have been employees in the past and had a supervisor who guided their actions don't really understand that now the buck starts with them, and it can also stop with them when they stop thinking and preparing. Another way that this shows up in the workplace with business owners is that very often, as I said earlier, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And it's often very hard for someone to focus on preparing for an event that may not come to fruition for 6 months or even a year, when you've got so much that has to happen right now. And sometimes those longer term events don't get the attention they deserve because they have no specific deadline. And someone says, well, I can take care of this tomorrow, or I can take care of this next week. But a key ingredient that goes into being either appropriately responsive to something that has not yet happened, or preparing or protecting your business against something that has not yet happened, is simply being aware of what's going on outside your immediate environment. And so, for example, if you can think of a mountain climber who's standing at the bottom of the mountain, perhaps in a valley floor, and looking around at her immediate environment, she sees the plant life, she sees the walls of the mountains, maybe she sees some mountain goats, and that's the extent of it. Well, as she starts to climb the mountain, her perspective shifts and it's much broader. She can see far beyond the valley, and perhaps she can see that over in the next town or even the next state, there's a storm. And that storm is going to show up where she is in an hour. And boy, it's a good thing she knows about it because she packed an umbrella. But standing on the valley, the floor of that mountain range, she's got no idea that she's going to be hit with hailstones within the hour and may not be able to respond. So for the business owner who doesn't take that broad perspective by being aware of what's going on outside their immediate environment, well, maybe they don't know that a competitor is getting ready to set up shop next door or to cut their prices tremendously, or they're not aware that a key technology they use is about to be scrapped and completely revised, leaving them competitively at a tremendous disadvantage. Or maybe they're not paying attention to their target audience and don't realize that their target audience's desired benefits from their category of service or product has shifted. So there's a lot that goes on outside of our business that will someday have an enormous impact on our business. Elections, regulatory changes, climate changes, military changes, depending upon the industry you're in or the ancillary industries that you depend upon. Just focusing on today's needs puts you at a tremendous disadvantage if you're going to be in business beyond next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I love this concept because a lot of what you're saying, I guess what I'm hearing is it's so important to stay current. It's so important not to just go off of old information and not just to learn from maybe someone who's been there and done that, 10 years ago, because 10 years ago is a lot different than today in what we're facing and the problems that we're facing. And things have completely altered in the last decade that we have to be on top of it. And, for you, obviously, you've been in business for the last 14 years as a business coach, helping people to transform and change and to stay current with the times. How has your business really changed as you've been a coach over the last 14 years?
Well, in one way, my marketing activities have changed tremendously, and I spend a lot more time focusing online than I do seeking out business locally. I'm very fortunate. I live in a community in suburban New York where there's a tremendous variety of networking and business events, multiple times a day, every day of the week. There are many ways that I could go out to meet with people and perhaps generate new business or relationships that could lead to something of value. And I would never cut those off because it's tremendously valuable to meet with people face to face and have conversations. However, the internet is an enormous marketplace of potential vendors, strategic partners, and clients and colleagues who are not limited by geography. So just consider our conversation today, how it's happening. So it's a remarkable thing to be able to build relationships, gain insight, find resources, conduct business sitting at home in pajamas,
Makes it easier, doesn't it?
Oh, easier and very comfortable. So that's really one of the ways that my business has changed in terms of how I seek to find people with whom I can conduct some kind of business, or even just have nice relationships with people. Another way my business has shifted is that I deliver many more programs and services now that are focused on large numbers of people or even small groups of people, rather than the one-on-one engagement that was the assumption when I first got into coaching as a profession. So that really has a couple of great benefits. Obviously, it's nice to be able to leverage what I do and personally enjoy greater success and deliver more value with less effort. The other reason I enjoy that kind of activity so much now that didn't exist in the past is because very often when I run group programs, the members of the group interact with each other. And just as you were saying earlier, staying up to date, well, when you have the opportunity to speak with someone who has similar concerns as you as a business owner, yet is at another stage in the development or the life cycle of their business, or they're in another part of the world, or they have a different industry affiliation, it means they approach problem solving and opportunities from a very different point of view. And instead of being limited to our own mental file cabinets about, how did I handle this last time it came up? We have so many other points of view that can contribute and in that way expand the potential outcomes you can enjoy. So these kinds of group offerings that I'm able to distribute now through online marketing really opens up opportunities, certainly not only for me, but for the people who participate in the programs I offer.
Got it. Now, I'd love to talk about some of the programs that you offer here. Perfect segue here. Your first offering on Strong Brook Mentoring Network is about crafting the elevator pitch. And, since our listeners are meeting other people all the time, why is a lesson on this needed so much right now?
Well, it's true. We meet people all the time, and we're certainly capable of introducing ourselves and talking to other people. But if you're heading out to an event where your thought is to meet someone where there might be some sort of business opportunity attached, it's a different way of talking. And one of the worst things I've experienced at networking events is people who approach me and immediately assume I'm giving them an opportunity to sell me something. And they do it, without knowing anything about me or problems I might have or interests I might have. And they express no interest. They ask no questions. They immediately start, verbally attacking me with their sales pitch. And that's completely inappropriate. Another thing that I've often experienced is those people who, are in love with their profession and they're fortunate to be very passionate about what they do, but they forget that they're often talking to someone who doesn't have an insider perspective into their industry. And so they will regale the other person with all kinds of techno speak and jargon that is meaningless. And, you see people starting to fall asleep on their feet. So, understanding how to approach a stranger with an opening conversation that really gets them interested and makes them ultimately say, gee, tell me more about that, is an art. And so, it's not only an art from a business perspective, but just to engage people and learn something about them. Perhaps rather than selling them, you may have an opportunity to gain something that you didn't ever expect you were going to find at the event that afternoon or evening. So, the open-minded way that I suggest people craft what we often call their elevator pitch or just their introductory remarks opens up a world of opportunities that when they're just card bombing people, are certainly not going to happen.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. This is something that I think that everyone needs. How do we appropriately approach people? At the end of the day, and I think you covered this, you said it, we've got to go out as friends. We've got to approach people as people and someone who has, value to offer as well, not just trying to sell them something, not just trying to, give them our business card as quickly as we can and off to the next person, but truly being in a space where we can listen to them, where we can let them know that we care. And because the reality of it, for me anyway, is that we do business with people that we're friends with. It's usually not the other way around. We usually aren't just becoming friends with people that we do business with, right? We do business with people that we are friends with already. And so making those relationships deeper than just business is really important. So I'm really excited for all of our listeners to tune in and to learn from you on how to create that elevator pitch.
Thank you.
So last question, maybe a couple more questions, but one of the finals as we're wrapping up here is, and I just would love to know and our listeners to know, why did you choose to mentor with Strong Brook here? What was the appeal for you?
Well, I was very fortunate to become familiar with Strong Brook through another fine organization, which is Women's Prosperity Network. And as I explored it and I met Chris Crone and heard him speak, what I saw consistently was that there was a real focus on quality, quality of the viewer's experience on the website, with the mentoring moments, with the opportunities to be engaged and be exposed to so many fine teachers, and real value, real practical, applicable value in whatever way the participant is seeking. It's an honor for me to be associated with this kind of organization and a desire to provide mentoring material of quality to so many. And I also like the fact that there's a variety of ways that the audience can get what they need, from an introductory, free or low-cost offer to a very comprehensive program that'll let them dive really deep into subjects. So really, what's not to like here, Stephen? There's a lot here to recommend Strong Brook.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much, and we are definitely pleased to have you as part of the network. We're honored to have you on. I mean, you've had so much life experience, so much experience as a business trainer, coach, and it's just amazing to be able to affiliate ourselves with people like you that are out there doing the same thing, really just trying to bless as many people as we possibly can, giving them multiple avenues to do so. As we wrap up here, maybe what are some final words that you would leave with our listeners, some things that they can take home right now and start implementing today to see a difference in their business?
Okay. I'm a big fan of philosopher Lao Tse, and I was just looking at some quotes, and I was shocked to see this particular quote attributed to him, which I think is so applicable, and that is that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And very often, when someone is willing to focus on their big picture goals, some of those far-reaching initiatives that we talked about that may not appear to have a deadline and can wait until tomorrow, one of the great ways to make it more easily attackable and to see it progress is to break it down into very small steps. So rather than think you're going to go out and rearrange your entire garage, full of 10 years worth of disorganization and mess, consider instead just focusing on a single shelf in a 6-inch square space and make that your goal. Because once you've achieved that goal and cleaned that up, you'll go on to the next 6-inch square space on the same shelf and feel, having achieved it, not only a sense of accomplishment, but recognizing that you're that much closer to a completely cleaned out garage. And perhaps next time you'll be willing to try a 10-inch square space because you'll know that you have been able to master that first 6-inch increment. And the same is true with any kind of business initiative. There are a lot of business initiatives that may appear to be daunting, like crafting and launching a new product, or shifting your audience, or recreating a website, or trying to find credit availability. There's lots of big goals that people may have, even to sell their enterprise. But that's the long-term goal, and it starts with a single step. And to be able to recognize what that single step is will not only make it much easier to take that step, but it's also a lot easier to put it on your calendar and say, on Tuesday from 11 to 11:15, I'm doing this. And I'll feel great after it's done. And maybe I'll go on Facebook and visit some friends as a reward. So that's really what I would say. Don't be overwhelmed by the big things your business is asking you to do. Instead, feel honored that you can do it, whether it's by doing it yourself, chunking it down into small steps, or reaching out to get the expert assistance you need to help you achieve. Because, as I said earlier, it all does need to get done, but it doesn't all need to get done by you, and it doesn't all need to get done today.
Awesome. Well, that is phenomenal advice. Thank you so much, Andrea. Again, everyone, this is Stephen Michael Miller with Strong Brook Radio. If you're tuning in, if this has been your first experience with us, I just wanted to say thank you again so much for tuning in with us. We've had an amazing show today with Andrea Feinberg, who is one of the top coaches in the world, especially here in the United States, has been helping business owners, small business owners, for the last 14 years to achieve greater results in their businesses, really to find out how to get past some of those speed bumps and humps that as business owners we all have to face at some point or another. And so it's been a true pleasure to have Andrea here with us today. Andrea, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation very much, Stephen.
I appreciate that. And everyone, again, if this is your first time tuning in, we want to thank you so much. If this is your first time, make sure that you take some time to share this app with others. You know that you've got this downloaded on your phone right now. Every single week we have a new Strong Brook Radio show, so please take some time, give this away as a free gift on us to anyone that you come in contact with that you feel might also get some benefit with this show. As always, make sure that you prepare every single week. Get your pen and paper, get your mindset ready, because we're here to change lives. We're here to give you those nuggets and tips and tricks to really help you blow past some of those blocks that you may have had in the past, things that are holding you back or limiting you from achieving the greatness that you want to achieve and that you can achieve. Again, everyone, this is Stephen Michael Miller with Strong Brook Radio. We've been on with Andrea Feinberg. It's just been a phenomenal show today. Thank you again, everyone, for listening, and have a wonderful week.